Have you ever felt a gentle tug at your heart, like someone's trying to get your attention? Maybe you've had moments where you sense something bigger than yourself, pushing you towards a special purpose. Well, what if I told you that these feelings might be more than just random thoughts? They could be signs that God is calling you. Yes, you heard that right. God might be reaching out to you, and there's one clear sign that shows you're on the right path. But here's the thing, recognizing this sign isn't always easy. It's not like getting a text message or a phone call. God's way of communicating is often subtle, like a whisper in a noisy world. That's why so many people miss it. They go through life feeling lost, unsure of their purpose, always searching for something but never quite finding it. And that's a shame, because when you know you're called by God, it changes everything. Now, you might be wondering, why does this matter? What's the big deal about recognizing God's call? Well, let me tell you, it's huge. If you miss this sign, you might spend years doubting yourself, questioning your choices, and feeling like you're just drifting through life. You could end up following paths that others have chosen for you, instead of the unique journey God has planned. But here's the exciting part: if you spot this sign, if you recognize God's call, your whole life can transform. Suddenly, you'll have a deep sense of purpose. You'll wake up each morning feeling energized, knowing that you're exactly where you're meant to be. Challenges won't disappear, but you'll face them with a new strength, confident that you're walking the path God laid out for you. Imagine living each day with the certainty that you are fulfilling your divine purpose. That's the power of recognizing God's call. It's like having a compass in the stormy sea of life, always pointing you in the right direction. And the best part? This call isn't just for a select few. God calls all of us, in different ways, for different purposes. Your call might not look like anyone else's, and that's okay. In fact, that's beautiful. Let me share a bit of my own story with you. I had a time when I felt completely lost. I was going through the motions of life, doing what everyone expected of me, but deep down, I felt empty. I had a good job, a nice place to live, but something was missing. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to life than what I was experiencing. One day, I was sitting in a park, feeling particularly down. I looked up at the sky and asked, "God, if you're there, what do you want from me?" I didn't expect an answer, but in that moment, I felt a warmth spread through my chest. It wasn't a booming voice or a miraculous sign. It was a feeling of peace and purpose that I had never experienced before. From that day on, things started to change. I began noticing little coincidences that seemed to guide me. I felt drawn to help others in ways I never had before. Opportunities to serve and make a difference started popping up everywhere. It wasn't always easy, and there were times when I doubted, but that initial feeling of peace and purpose never left me. This experience taught me something crucial: God's call often starts small. It's like a tiny seed that, when nurtured, grows into something beautiful and life-changing. My journey helped me understand that being called by God isn't about having all the answers or being perfect. It's about being open to His guidance and willing to take steps of faith, even when the path isn't clear. Now, you might be thinking, that's great for you, but how do I know if God is calling me? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore. There's one clear sign that shows you're being called by God, and once you understand it, you'll start seeing it everywhere in your life. But before we dive into that, I want you to know something important. God's call is not a one-size-fits-all thing. Your calling might look very different from mine or anyone else's. And that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's exactly how it's supposed to be. God created you as a unique individual, with your own gifts, experiences, and purpose. So as we go through this, keep an open mind. The way God speaks to you might surprise you. It might not be what you expect. But I promise you, if you're willing to listen, if you're open to recognizing the signs, you'll discover a purpose and a calling that will change your life forever. In the next part of our journey together, we're going to explore the first key aspect of recognizing God's call. It's something that might seem simple at first, but it has the power to radically shift your perspective on life. Are you ready? Let's dive in and discover how God might be calling you right now, in ways you never imagined. Now, let's talk about the first big sign that God is calling you. It's what I like to call the inner stirring. This isn't just a passing feeling or a random thought. It's a deep, persistent sense that there's something more for you to do or be. Imagine you're living your normal life, going about your daily routine. But there's this nagging feeling in the back of your mind. It's like a little voice whispering, there's more to life than this. You might feel restless, like you're meant for something bigger, even if you can't quite put your finger on what that is. This inner stirring can show up in different ways. Maybe you find yourself drawn to certain causes or issues in the world. You might feel a strong urge to help others or to make a difference in some way. Or perhaps you keep having thoughts about a particular skill or talent you have, wondering if you could use it for something more meaningful. The key here is that this feeling doesn't just go away. It's not like a passing mood that's here today and gone tomorrow. This inner stirring sticks with you. It might get stronger at times and fade a bit at others, but it never completely disappears. Here's the thing, this persistent feeling isn't just random. It's often God's way of getting your attention, of nudging you towards your purpose. It's like He's planted a seed in your heart, and that seed is starting to grow, pushing you towards something greater. Now, you might be thinking, but I'm not sure what this feeling is pushing me towards. That's okay. The inner stirring doesn't always come with a clear roadmap. It's more like the first step on a journey. God might not show you the whole path at once, but He's inviting you to take that first step. To understand this better, let's look at what the Bible says. In the book of John, chapter 10, verse 27, Jesus says, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." This verse tells us something important. God does speak to us, and we can learn to recognize His voice. Now, don't worry if you've never heard an audible voice from heaven. That's not usually how it works. God's voice often comes in the form of that inner stirring we talked about. It's that persistent feeling, that sense of purpose that won't let go of you. Think about it like this: when you really know someone well, you can often tell what they're thinking or feeling without them saying a word. You recognize their expressions, their gestures, the way they act. It's the same with God. As you grow closer to Him, you start to recognize His voice, those nudges, those persistent thoughts and feelings that align with His character and His word. This scripture also reminds us that following God's call is a journey. Jesus says His sheep follow Him. It's not a one-time event, but an ongoing relationship. So if you're feeling that inner stirring, see it as an invitation to start following, to begin a journey with God. God knows you. He created you. So when He calls you, it's not to something random or meaningless. It's to a purpose that fits who you are, even if it might stretch you and help you grow. Now that we've talked about the inner stirring, let's look at the second big sign that God is calling you: aligned opportunities. This is where things start to get really exciting. When God is calling you, you'll often find that doors start opening in your life. Opportunities will appear that align with that inner stirring we talked about earlier. It's like the universe, or more accurately, God, is conspiring to put you in the right place at the right time. These opportunities might come in various forms. Maybe you'll meet someone who needs exactly the kind of help you can offer. Or you might hear about a project or a cause that resonates deeply with you. Sometimes, it could be as simple as coming across a book or a message that speaks directly to what you've been feeling inside. The key here is the alignment. These aren't just random chances or coincidences. They're opportunities that fit with that sense of purpose you've been feeling. They often challenge you to step out of your comfort zone, to use your skills and passions in new ways. Now, here's an important point. These aligned opportunities don't always look perfect or easy. Sometimes, they might even seem a bit scary. That's okay. God's call often pushes us to grow, to become more than we currently are. So don't expect everything to fall into your lap without any effort on your part. Think of it like this: God opens the door, but you still need to walk through it. He provides the opportunity, but you need to take action. This is where faith comes in. You might not see the whole picture, but you trust that God is guiding you. Also, that these opportunities often start small. Don't expect to change the world overnight. Maybe you'll get a chance to help one person or to use your skills in a small project. These small starts are important. They're like stepping stones, leading you towards your bigger purpose. As you start noticing and acting on these aligned opportunities, you'll likely find that more start appearing. It's like a snowball effect. The more you say yes to God's call, the more chances you'll have to live out your purpose. Now, let's clear up a common misunderstanding about God's call. Many people think that being called by God always involves some dramatic, life-changing moment. They expect a burning bush like Moses saw, or a blinding light like Paul experienced on the road to Damascus. While God certainly can work in dramatic ways, that's not usually how it happens. For most of us, God's call is much quieter, much more subtle. It's more like a gentle nudge than a loud shout. This misconception can cause people to miss God's call in their lives. They're waiting for some big, unmistakable sign, and in the meantime, they overlook the small, everyday ways God is speaking to them. The truth is, God often works through the ordinary moments of our lives. That inner stirring we talked about? It usually doesn't come with flashing lights and dramatic music. Those aligned opportunities? They often look pretty normal at first glance. God's call is less about dramatic moments and more about an ongoing journey. It's about developing a relationship with Him where you learn to recognize His guidance in your daily life. This doesn't mean God's call is any less powerful or important. In fact, there's something beautiful about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. It means that every day can be an opportunity to connect with God's purpose for your life. So, if you've been waiting for some big, unmistakable sign from God, you might want to shift your perspective. Start paying attention to the small nudges, the quiet thoughts that keep coming back, the opportunities that seem to align with your inner sense of purpose. God knows you intimately. He created you, after all. So His call on your life will fit you perfectly. It will resonate with who you are, even as it challenges you to grow and become more. Don't get discouraged if you haven't had a dramatic calling moment. Instead, open your eyes to the ways God might be speaking to you right now, in the everyday moments of your life. His call is there, waiting for you to recognize and respond to it. Now, let's explore the third key aspect of recognizing God's call in your life, a growing desire to serve others. This is where things start to get really exciting and fulfilling. When God calls you, He often plants a seed of compassion in your heart. You might find yourself becoming more aware of the needs around you. It's like your eyes are open to the struggles and pain of others in a way you've never experienced before. This isn't just about feeling bad for people. It's about feeling a strong urge to do something about it. You might start noticing opportunities to help others that you would have overlooked before. Maybe you feel drawn to volunteer at a local shelter, or you find yourself wanting to use your skills to support a cause you care about. The key here is that this desire to serve isn't forced. It's not about guilt or obligation. Instead, it feels natural, like it's part of who you are. You might even feel energized when you're helping others, like you're doing exactly what you were meant to do. This growing desire to serve often aligns with your unique gifts and talents. God doesn't call us to serve in ways that don't fit who we are. Instead, He often uses our natural abilities and passions as a starting point. So you might find that your desire to serve lines up perfectly with things you're already good at or interested in. Serving doesn't always mean doing big, heroic acts. Sometimes it's as simple as being there for a friend or using your skills to help someone in need. The important thing is that you're using what you have to make a positive difference in the world around you. As this desire to serve grows, you might also notice a shift in your priorities. Things that used to seem so important might start to fade into the background. Instead, you find yourself more focused on how you can contribute, how you can be a blessing to others. This growing desire to serve is a powerful sign of God's call because it aligns so closely with God's heart. Throughout the Bible, we see that God cares deeply for people and calls us to do the same. When you feel that pull to serve others, it's often a sign that you're tuning into God's wavelength, so to speak. Now that we've explored these signs of God's call, let's talk about how you can be more open to recognizing and responding to that call in your life. This is where the rubber meets the road, where we take these ideas and put them into practice. First, make time for quiet reflection. In our busy, noisy world, it's easy to miss God's voice. Set aside some time each day to be still, to quiet your mind, and to listen. This could be through prayer, meditation, or simply sitting in silence. The goal is to create space in your life where you can hear that inner stirring we talked about earlier. Next, pay attention to your emotions and thoughts. What excites you? What bothers you about the world? What do you find yourself thinking about when your mind wanders? These can all be clues to where God might be calling you. Another practical step is to start saying yes to small opportunities to serve. Those aligned opportunities we discussed? They often start small. So look for little ways you can help others or use your skills for good. As you do this, you might find that bigger opportunities start to appear. It's also important to stay connected to a community of faith. Other believers can often provide insight, encouragement, and accountability as you explore God's call on your life. They might see gifts in you that you haven't recognized yourself, or provide opportunities for you to serve and grow. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. God's call often challenges us to grow, to become more than we currently are. So if you feel a nudge to try something new, even if it's a little scary, consider taking that step of faith. Finally, be patient with yourself and with the process. Understanding God's call is a journey, not a destination. It's okay if you don't have everything figured out right away. Keep listening, keep serving, keep growing, and trust that God will continue to guide you. As we wrap up our exploration of the signs that you're called by God, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've discovered. We've talked about the inner stirring that won't let you go, the aligned opportunities that seem to appear in your life, and the growing desire to serve others. We've also addressed the common misconception that God's call always comes in dramatic, unmistakable ways. Recognizing God's call in your life isn't about waiting for some grand, miraculous moment. It's about opening your eyes to the ways God is already speaking to you through your everyday experiences, your passions, and the needs you see around you. Your calling is unique to you. It's shaped by your personality, your experiences, your skills, and your passions. God created you with a specific purpose in mind, and He's inviting you to discover and live out that purpose. As you move forward from here, I encourage you to stay open and attentive to the ways God might be calling you. Pay attention to that inner stirring. Look for those aligned opportunities. Nurture that desire to serve others. And most importantly, don't be afraid to take those steps of faith when you feel God nudging you forward. You don't have to have it all figured out at once. Understanding and living out God's call is a lifelong journey. There will be moments of clarity and moments of confusion, times of excitement and times of doubt. That's all part of the process. The most important thing is to keep moving forward, to keep saying yes to God's invitations in your life. As you do, you'll find yourself growing, changing, and becoming more and more the person God created you to be. Your life has a divine purpose. You are called by God. And as you embrace that calling, you'll discover a depth of meaning, fulfillment, and joy that you may have never thought possible. So step out in faith, embrace your calling, and watch as God works through you in ways you never imagined. Thank you for joining me on this journey of discovery. May you go forth with a renewed sense of purpose, confident in the knowledge that you are called by God for such a time as this. Your life matters, your purpose is real, and God is calling you to something amazing. It's time to answer that call.